The question of whether money is important or time is important does not arise suddenly in life. It grows quietly inside a person, almost unnoticed, like a shadow stretching longer as the sun moves. Carl Jung would have said that such a question is not really about money or time at all, but about the soul trying to remember what it came here to learn. Imagine a person moving through life with an invisible weight on their chest, waking up each morning already tired, not because the body is weak, but because the inner meaning has become thin. This person works, earns, saves, plans, and repeats, believing that security lies just one step ahead, just one more achievement away. Money becomes the language through which worth is measured, not only by society, but by the person's own unconscious. Jung believed that whatever dominates the conscious mind without reflection sinks into the unconscious and begins to rule from below, and money, when unexamined, easily becomes such a ruler. In the early years of life, time feels endless. A day feels like a universe, a year feels like eternity. In those years, money is abstract, something adults worry about, something that causes tension in rooms that children do not fully understand. Jung would see this phase as one where the psyche is oriented toward growth, exploration, and play, toward the natural unfolding of the self. Time is lived, not counted. But as life moves forward, the collective expectations begin to press in. Society teaches that time must be converted into productivity and productivity into money. Slowly, almost invisibly, time stops being an experience and becomes a resource. Jung warned that when life is reduced to a single value system, the psyche becomes one-sided, and one-sidedness always demands compensation. The person begins to trade hours, days, and years for money, telling themselves that this sacrifice is temporary. Later, they think, I will live. Jung would say that the danger lies in this postponement of life. The psyche does not live in the future. It lives in the present moment. When the present is constantly denied meaning, the unconscious begins to protest. This protest may appear as anxiety, emptiness, irritability, or a vague sense that something essential is missing. The person may not understand why they feel restless even after achieving what they once desired. They have money now, perhaps more than they ever imagined, yet time feels scarce, slipping through their fingers like sand. Jung saw this as a classic conflict between the ego's goals and the self's deeper needs. Money itself, in Jung's view, is not evil or sacred, it is a symbol. And symbols derive their power from what they represent in the psyche. For some, money symbolizes safety, for others freedom, for others love, respect, or control. The problem arises when the symbol is mistaken for the reality it represents. When money becomes equated with life itself, time becomes merely a means to acquire it. Jung believed that such confusion leads to neurosis, because the psyche knows, at a deep level, that symbols are not the same as the living experiences they point toward. Time is life's raw material. To give it away without awareness is to give away life unconsciously. As the person grows older, the body begins to speak more clearly. Energy is no longer infinite. Recovery takes longer. Moments of silence become more appealing. Jung noted that the second half of life demands a reversal of values. What was useful in the first half, ambition, expansion, achievement, can become destructive if carried forward unchanged. Money may have been necessary to establish oneself in the world, but now the soul asks different questions. What has all this effort been for? Who am I when I am not producing? What remains when the roles fall away? Time, once again, demands attention, not as a resource to be exploited, but as a mystery to be inhabited. Many people resist this inner shift. They cling more tightly to money, believing it will protect them from aging, from irrelevance, from death itself. Jung would say that this is a denial of the shadow side of life, the refusal to accept limitation and mortality. But denial does not eliminate reality. It only pushes fear into the unconscious, where it grows stronger. The person may become obsessed with financial security, endlessly calculating, worrying, accumulating, yet feeling no peace. Time, meanwhile, continues its quiet movement, indifferent to accounts and possessions. Jung emphasized that meaning is the true currency of the psyche. Without meaning, even the most comfortable life feels barren. Time spent without meaning feels wasted, regardless of how much money it produces. Conversely, moments rich in meaning can feel timeless, even if they yield nothing tangible. Think of a conversation that changes the course of one's inner life, or a moment of deep connection, or an encounter with beauty that leaves a lasting imprint. These moments do not increase wealth, yet they expand the soul. Jung would argue that such experiences are expressions of the self, the organizing center of the psyche that seeks wholeness rather than profit. The conflict between money and time often manifests as an inner split. On one side stands the practical self, concerned with survival, responsibility, and social expectations. On the other side stands the deeper self, longing for presence, authenticity, and inner alignment. Jung did not advocate abandoning one side for the other. He believed in integration. Money is necessary, but it must be placed in its proper psychological position, as a servant, not a master. Time must be honored as the field in which life unfolds, not merely as a commodity to be sold. When a person begins to listen inwardly, subtle changes occur. They may notice a growing impatience with activities that feel empty, even if they are lucrative. They may feel drawn to simplicity, to fewer possessions, but richer experiences. Jung would say that this is the psyche moving toward individuation, the process of becoming who one truly is. Individuation often involves a revaluation of values. What once seemed important loses its shine. What once seemed impractical gains depth. This shift can be frightening, because society continues to reward those who prioritize money over time. Choosing time for reflection, for relationships, for creativity, can feel like rebellion. Jung understood this tension well. He knew that following the inner call often leads to conflict with the outer world. But he also knew that ignoring the inner call leads to a deeper conflict within, one that no amount of money can resolve. The person who begins to value time differently does not necessarily stop working or earning. Instead, they work with a different inner attitude. Time at work is no longer merely endured for a paycheck. It becomes part of life, something to be shaped consciously. Money earned becomes a means to support a meaningful life, not a measure of it. Jung would say that this shift restores balance between the ego and the self. The ego still functions in the world, but it no longer believes it is the whole of the psyche. As awareness grows, the person may begin to notice how often they have postponed joy, rest, or connection in the name of future security. Jung believed that such postponement is one of the great illusions of modern life. The future is an idea, the present is reality. Time only ever exists now. To sacrifice the present entirely for an imagined future is to live in abstraction. Money can buy comfort, but it cannot buy presence. Presence arises from attention, from being where one is fully. Toward the later stages of life, the question of money versus time becomes unavoidable. Time feels more precious because it is visibly finite. Jung observed that people who have lived only for external success often experience profound despair at this stage. They may feel that life has passed them by, that despite all their efforts, something essential was never lived. Those who have cultivated inner life, who have respected time as sacred, often face aging with greater acceptance. They may have less money, or they may have enough, but their sense of worth does not depend on it. In Jungian terms, death itself gives time its ultimate meaning. Awareness of mortality intensifies life. Money cannot extend time beyond its natural limits. Recognizing this is not morbid, it is clarifying. When a person truly accepts that time is finite, they become more selective, more intentional. They spend time where it feels alive. Jung would say that this is the psyche aligning with truth rather than illusion. In the end, the question is not whether money is important or time is important, but whether one is living consciously or unconsciously. Money used unconsciously consumes time without giving life in return. Time lived consciously transforms even ordinary moments into something meaningful. Jung believed that the soul does not ask for endless pleasure or constant success. It asks for authenticity. It asks that one's outer life reflect one's inner truth. A life organized solely around money often leads to inner poverty. A life organized solely around time, without regard for reality, can lead to chaos. The task is balance, a dialogue between necessity and meaning. Jung would say that when money and time are both held consciously, Neither dominates. Money supports life. Time reveals its depth. In that balance, the individual moves closer to wholeness. As the person looks back over their life, what remains are not the numbers and accounts, but the quality of moments lived, the relationships formed, the inner growth achieved. Time carries these within it. Money fades into abstraction. Jung believed that at the deepest level, the psyche knows this from the beginning.